Well, Martin, would you like to start?
I'm Maratin Gonzalez, I'm 35, and I am the project manager in charge of the B2B side in Mexico. We've had some great successes in this area, and I look forward to sharing them with you. I'm married to Ricardo, and we have two lovely daughters. Here they are. I guess I'm pretty outgoing. This is the first time I work abroad, and I'm really excited about it. Is that enough?
That's fine, thank you, Martin. Martin and I met last year in Mexico at the Zone meeting. Perhaps I can just say one or two words about myself. My name is Stollmeier, Manfred Stollmeier. I'm the Research and Development Director of our laboratory in Mainz. I've worked in this industry all my life. I have a doctorate in biochemistry. I started working for Bracken 10 years ago and have always worked on the product development side, which is why I've been asked to lead this project. Phil, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Phil Chu. I was born and brought up in Malaysia, but I studied in the UK. I only recently joined Bracken as project manager, responsible for the veterinary products in the Southeast Asia zone. We feel we are making good progress in our market. I have some slides here to show you on our latest product launch.
Perhaps not now, Phil, but thank you anyway. Yeah. Beth, what about you?
Hi, I'm Beth.
What we're trying to get them to do with this video, and in any case, is just take another step back from that. So to reserve judgment, to reserve that critical judgment for longer, and to think about what did I actually see? What did they say? Why did they say it? And maybe only secondarily share in the group more of these impressionistic things about that behavior. I mean, if we think about sources of behavior, I've already identified personality, culture, and situation. So I think it's quite easy for you to see that, we can look at the behavior of those three people in terms of personality. Phil is Malaysian, but maybe the really critical factor is that he's very enthusiastic. He's very up for it. Maybe that's something to do with the fact that he's Malaysian. Or in the case of Manfred, okay, he's the project leader. Why does he go on about all his qualifications? We might say, well, okay, that's very German. We might just say, well, he's feeling very insecure about his role in this project, and he feels he needs to establish his credibility in the group. So two steps. What do we see and how? So let's go on now to talk about these other cases. These are the written cases, which you've got copies of. And the first one, I'm not quite sure actually the copy in front of you. This is case study 5, so it's not the first one, it's the second one. They're on the reverse side, is about a person called Talal Hamieh, a Lebanese guy, working in Dubai. And then there's somebody called Ben, who's British, also working in Dubai as his manager. And Ben's a consultant called Rashid. So the actual event, if you like, is a meeting between these three people. If we start to think about what the case maps out for you is a little bit about Talal's background. As I said, he's Lebanese, working in Dubai. And a little bit about Ben's background, coming from the UK, coming to work in Dubai. And so that's a little bit about the cultural side. In terms of personality, as you read the case, start to understand things about Talal's personality. He's very lively, very enthusiastic, very excited about things. He's not very structured. He's very flexible. We discover that Ben is much more structured, very systematic in how he approaches his management decisions. So we start to understand more about these two people in terms of their personality and in terms of their cultural background. And we okay, seems to have stopped here. Yeah. So what are they doing? What's the situation they're in? The situation is that they're working with a film distribution company and Talal has had a lot of success in distributing films throughout the Middle East. They now have on the table a big opportunity, which is to become distributors of films in India as well. And the meeting is about that opportunity. So the situation is critical as well. The situation in which they're going to have to achieve this challenge is obviously critical for our understanding. If we think about the skills that are demonstrated and perhaps needed by the characters in this case, there's this issue which I was talking about earlier. Talal is somebody who's very, very good on the big picture. He's somebody who, you know, enthused about that. We find out that Ben is very good on the detail. He's also very good on the numbers, very good on the figures in terms of actually reporting the results back to his multinational. So there is, you know, there is a clash in terms of personality there. There's also a question mark in terms of leadership style. Maybe there's an expectation from Talal to be led in a very top-down way. In the Middle East, I mean, those of you who are familiar with the Middle East, that's probably the norm for how people would lead. Then comes out to the Middle East, to Dubai, which itself is typically comes out to Dubai from a UK Anglo-Saxon, if you like, approach to leadership, which is much more of a partnership. So he thinks what he needs with Talal is a partnership. So there's a clash there. And another big factor, I think, in this case is the fact that Ben's background is very much in the head office, so the big multinational, and Talal's expertise is very much local. You know, coming from Lebanon, insights into the Middle East with lots of local knowledge. And I think for those of you who work with that sort of setup, where we're training between the, if you like, the head office and the local, that's one of the biggest challenges of working internationally, managing that. So, and the case develops. There are some questions which you can read about in terms of their behaviour, and there are also some answers. So that's one example of a case. Let's just have a look at another one. Okay, here's the second case. You might sort of ask yourself, where do these cases come from? And the answer to that is they come from my experience. I mean, so they come from as a result of spending 30 years with people and having come across many, many situations based on my creative fiction around that real case. So this is another case, which is this Chinese lady, Sun Mei Ling, and in this case, it's based in Beijing, and it's a German pharmaceutical company which has set up a laboratory in Beijing, which is a process that's happening a lot at the moment. So again, if any of you are working in that area, the need to push innovation, not just happening in the home base, but to be innovating locally, and especially in large markets like India and China. So they set up a laboratory, and so it's the two cultures which are present in this case are Chinese and German. So the Mei Ling and Helga are the two main characters. And we discover when we read the case that Mei Ling is extremely competent, very good at her job. She's quite quiet, She tends not to push herself forward. She tends to wait until she's told what to do. Helga is much more forceful person. She's used to, if you like, pushing a little bit harder. So we discover something about them. And in terms of the situation, the R&D Centre is a mix of expatriate and local. This is another key factor that I think we've got, as I remember from the case, we've got about 30% expatriate and 70% Chinese. And actually, for the expatriates who initially are often in management or more senior leadership positions, managing these Chinese local staff and getting the best out of them is a big challenge. And as I say, this is based on 2 or 3 clients who have faced this sort of challenge. Seems to have stopped again. Catch up. So some of the issues around here, again, in terms of how much this is going to be solved by instruction, by giving very clear instructions. The frustration which Helga feels is that she's expecting her Chinese colleague to take initiatives to get on and do the job fairly autonomously, whereas Mei Ling has an expectation that she's going to be more actively supervised and more actively supported, if you like, on a day-to-day basis. So how much instruction and how much encouragement needs to be given, how much supervision, how much autonomy is realistic. And there is another factor, another layer of complexity which one needs to think about, which is that Mei Ling actually, her background is in a government lab, so if you like, in the public sector, whereas Helga's experience is all in the commercial. I think, again, for those of us who worked in these fields, the public sector, private sector thing can explain quite a lot of behaviour that isn't explained by maybe the purely cultural or the purely personality. So that's just about all I wanted to say as far as the 2 cases. It gives you a bit of a flavour, hopefully, of how those cases develop.